I mean, we have to say, welcome back.
Welcome back. My name is Alyssa.
Oh, we haven't done that in so long. Sorry. My name is Rowan.
My name is Alyssa.
And this is our podcast.
Welcome back to What We're Not Taking to Our Graves.
You know, Henry plays that first video clip all the time.
We love a supportive man.
We love a supportive man. Well, it's been a minute since we've been on the internet doing this thing, singing our song.
We had to take a break to get Rowan married.
We did.
It took approximately every ounce of our brain power, our combined brain power. Did it not?
No, it sure did. But we're back.
Welcome to season 2.
Oh, yeah, season 2. I'm really excited for this new era. Today, we are back.
We're going to be talking about why you should break up with your boyfriend.
He fucking sucks. Jot that. No, on the real.
If you're taking notes, bullet point 1 is men just suck.
Underline it. Okay, I'm sorry. We're just going to keep laughing as we were trying to do this in one take. I mean, honestly, we could just post it as is. It's fine. Remember when someone commented on our TikTok? Make podcast equipment more expensive?
Honestly, they should. This was way too easy.
This was so easy.
Also, if you guys get some podcast mics, we'll listen to your podcast.
I would be so supportive of anybody who wants to try. I mean, some people may be like a hate listen, but I still listen.
For sure.
We'd be supportive.
There's a couple people that we've been like...
Oh, I bet they hate listen.
No, that's not where I was going with that.
But we did also talk about that. I'm sorry. Continue.
No.
My bad. I didn't fill in the right blank.
No, there's been a couple people that we've been like, oh my gosh, why haven't they started a podcast yet?
Oh, yeah.
Or like, oh, I really thought this girl would have started a podcast by now.
For
and
sure.
She hasn't for some reason. We you know exactly what I'm talking about, right? And like, it just feels like very on brand, and she hasn't. And every day I'm like, surely she'll announce it soon.
Absolutely. I bet any day.
Any day now. Like, it just feels like the most on brand, like, next step for her, and she just hasn't.
I'd listen.
I would be like the number one listener.
You would. But you know what? Saying a lot of things about you, but you are like a down supportive bitch on anybody and anything. You always have been.
Literally.
You've always been that girl. Who's
I will
you're selling this? I got you. Like,
yeah.
Always.
You want to be an influencer? I'll like all your little posts.
Yeah. I see what you're doing. You don't have to announce it for the algorithm. I got you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love it. I'm here for it.
It's girlhood.
It's girlhood.
But you've been doing it before. It was cool. That's why it's cool.
I mean, I am that girl. I
You
am
are.
that bitch.
You're not like other girls.
I'm really not.
Oh my gosh.
Can we focus?
Yes, I'm sorry. This is fun.
Stop talking to me. I'm trying to do a podcast.
Okay, serious.
Get into character.
I don't have a character. What you see is what you get.
Shake out. Get your wiggles out.
But I'm ready. Today we're going to be talking about why you should break up with your boyfriend.
Okay, so real talk though. Actually, this is something I wanted to talk about for a while. We've actually been talking about what we were going to talk about as like our first couple of episodes when we came back. And this was one of the topics that was like high up on the list. We've had so many conversations about so many people in our lives lately who like need to break up with their boyfriends. And this is going to feel so targeted to those people specifically, I think.
Well, here's the thing. If the shoe fits.
If the shoe fits, wear it, bitch. Like, I don't even know what to tell you. If you feel personally victimized by this episode.
I'm just saying, like, a lot of times if something hits home and it resonates,
there's a reason.
It resonates for a reason.
Okay. Small wins, though. One of those people did, in fact, break up with her boyfriend. So, shout out to our girl. When you hear this, you're going to know.
We're so proud.
But you were one of the people that we had a conversation about, and we said,
with love,
she just needs to break up with her boyfriend already.
Yes.
And then you did.
And here's the thing. It's like, we were joking about, like, oh, yeah, break up with your boyfriend. But they're, like, obviously the Ariana Grande song is what I think about when I say that. But
is there an Ariana Grande song called that?
Uncultured. You act like I'm uncultured. Uncultured. Uncultured.
You know what's crazy is that whenever I say break up with your boyfriend, the first song that pops into my mind is Dove Cameron's I Could Be a Better Boyfriend Than...
Do you know what I'm going to say? Okay, I'm not going to say it. Anyway, no, so I do think of that song. But it's kind of like a little haha. But in reality, there are so many people, and this doesn't have to be woman-based, there are so many people that are in relationships where their quality of life would just be so much better if they just broke up with their significant other. And I think a lot of times, you know, we get so wrapped up in the what should have been, the potential, and all those things. And this is coming from two divorcees on the couch.
Yeah.
And we lived it. And so it's something that we're just kind of passionate about. So
yeah, I think that this is one of those topics that like we can speak on because we did stay probably longer than like we wish we would have. Not necessarily like I want to say we stayed longer than we should have, because should have, would have, could have. Like, you know what I mean?
It happened how it happened.
Yeah. I don't ever like to say that because you just never know. It played out the way it was meant to play out. However, I do look back and I think, oh man, like there are some days where I definitely wish I hadn't stayed as long as I did, but it is what it is. But like, it's something that we have such like a personal experience with, and it's something that I think every girl and guy, whatever, has an experience with, because whether or not you have a first-hand experience with it, right? You've been in a relationship where you've stayed longer than you should have. You've probably had a second-hand experience with it where you've seen, you know, whether it's your parents, because my parents stayed married way, way longer than they should have, or a sibling being in a relationship longer than they should have, or a best friend, or something of that nature. Like, it's something that we've all seen or been through, but if you're in that relationship in that moment, it's so hard to realize.
And it's hard to see a life on the other side of what you're currently in. And I think kind of just to go on the fact, like you said, seeing someone you love and care about go through it, it's really hard to watch someone's sparkle be drained, watch the life go out of someone's eyes, but they're still living. The misery, the depression, the things that come around with it, like, yeah, it's a funny way to say it, but it is actually a very real issue, because a lot of us, we stay in the safe because it's what we know. Like, the normal is the safe. Like, this is what we know. This is how we've lived. The unknown on the other side of it, it just doesn't seem worth it to a lot of people. But at the same time, being with a partner who honestly doesn't like you, doesn't care about you, is selfish. There's like, I could go down a list. I could name a ton of different ways this shows up in relationships. But being with someone that at the end of the day does not care about you and is making you worse off, it's going to take every last bit of like you out of you. Like, every part that makes you who you are is going to just be drained. And then one day you wake up, as we kind of did. And I know for me, I feel like I personally was so scared of the unknown. And so that's maybe why I would go into it with that mindset. I was so scared of the unknown. It did not even make sense to me that there was a life outside of the life I was living. Like, there could be something else in the future. And so I stayed where I was, and then I kept like slowly dwindling down more and more. But I didn't even know that was what was happening. I couldn't have named it. I couldn't have placed it and said that. And so, I don't know. I think my goal would just be kind of talk through that, because I think there is a lot of people who don't even realize that's what the situation they're in, because we can justify it. Yeah. We can justify someone's actions so much, especially if it was once good. If it was once, oh, but they did this, I'm sure, like, oh, we're in a tough season. Like, and there is truth to that. Sometimes you really are just in a tough season. Sometimes the capacity your partner has to give is limited and you have to step in. That's like why 50-50 is such a construct anyway, because sometimes it's 70-30. Sometimes it's, 60-40, whatever. It doesn't matter, but there's a difference.
Yeah.
I know it's hard to pinpoint, though.
No, I can agree completely. For me, it was the moment that I realized I stopped dreaming about the future.
Do you remember, like, the exact moment?
Actually, it was my ex-husband. He was like, you don't dream about the future. Like, you have no vision of, like, us being retired, sitting on a front porch, like, hanging out together, surrounded by grandkids. He was like, you don't have, like, those dreams of our future. Because I literally could not see past the next hour. And I was like, shit, you're kind of right. Like, I had no concept of what the next 3 years would look like, what the next 5 years would look like. I had no dreams, no visions, no, like, big grandiose plans for us as a family. No aspirations, like, none of that.
At what point in your marriage was this? In the earlier days when you were going through a lot of things postpartum, or was this closer to the end of the marriage?
It was probably about 6 to 8 months before, like, the very end.
Okay. I was curious just because, excuse me, I know that a lot of us can confuse personal mental health struggles with what is not actually serving us, because it's very easy to put blame on ourselves, especially if we have a history with any mental health things.
Yeah.
It's really easy to be like, oh, it's just me. It's my problem. So I was curious just like where you're at, because if it was a little fresher postpartum, I could see why in the moment you'd be like,
no, yeah. And that was really hard for me, because I did struggle with what later I found out was diagnosed as bipolar, but at the time I had no clue what was going on. But I did struggle a lot with my mental health. And so a lot of it I did put on myself. And I did blame myself. And I was like, well, if my brain worked, my marriage would work.
That's a good one, because I understand that.
And if my brain worked, parenting would be easier. Marriage would be easier. My household would run smoother. And all of these things I really did blame on the fact that I did have such intense postpartum rage with Ella, postpartum anxiety with Ella. And then with the twins, it was, again, postpartum rage and then severe postpartum OCD. And they never tell you about those things. They tell you that you get postpartum depression. Maybe you'll have a provider who warns you about postpartum anxiety.
Yeah, but a lot of them will dismiss it as, oh, it's just baby blues. Those go away once your hormones settle. And
so I was lucky enough to find a counselor who was like, oh, no, you have something bigger. You have more going on here. But for a lot of people, they don't. Mm-hmm. They're not blessed with someone who's like, hey, you've got something bigger going on here. But I twisted that a little bit in my brain and was like, oh my gosh, it is my fault. My brain is broken. My gosh,
Hallelujah,
it's my fault.
Answer.
Oh my gosh, it's all clicking into place now. He's really not doing anything wrong. He's right.
That's such a tricky thing.
He's right. He's not doing anything wrong. It's my fault. My brain doesn't work. I'm not doing the things properly because my brain is broken. Oh my gosh, we have an answer. And so like that was really hard. Then later on, once I got on my meds and things kind of stabilized in my brain, to kind of like detach myself from whenever other people would come in, like you and some of my other friends, and be like, hey, I don't mean to overstep, but things are kind of weird in your house.
Sorry.
Like I had a neighbor, and it was a married couple, and we were very, very good friends with them. And they would make comments, and they would be like, hey, are you like cool with the way that things are like run in your house? Like if you are totally cool, like totally fine. I don't mean to overstep, but like, are you cool with that? And I was like, what do you mean? This is normal, right? Like this is chill for like, is this not chill? Is this not like how everyone does it? Like, is something off here? And they were like, if it's chill for you, it's chill for us. And I was like, oh, okay. So it's not normal. Okay. And then other friends would be like, are you good? Are you fine? And I'd be like, I think so. But everybody's starting to ask me that. And I'm a little concerned that maybe I'm not fine.
You did a really good job at convincing yourself you're fine. I'm not going to lie. You really tried. I mean, you succeeded in theory, but you went.
And so it was really hard for me to kind of like take a step back and like look at it through the eyes of someone who wasn't convinced that they were the problem, and to look at it with like a bigger picture and to kind of like see everything objectively and be like, okay, yes, you did maybe have some faults. Like I was not perfect. I was not a perfect human.
Yes, you are.
No, I'm not. But like not everything was my fault. You know what I mean? That was really hard for me to be like, okay, line up the tallies. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
To be like, to take ownership for the things that I did in fact do wrong, but then not take ownership for the things that weren't my fault.
Yeah. And then like seeing what was still left. Like
yes.
What was still happening.
Yes.
What were the actions?
That was really, really hard for me.
Yeah.
Because I just wanted to take the blame for everything.
Well, if you take responsibility for it, then you can fix it. That's the whole problem. And the thing is, there are partners, no amount of hard work on your end is going to fix them. There's nothing worse than being in a relationship with a nonchalant man, specifically men. But I mean, this applies to any partner for sure, but there is nothing worse than being in a relationship with a nonchalant man, because it's very hard when you're in those situations where like, okay, well, they're not abusing me. They're not telling me, I can't wear this or say that. They're not really confining me, but they're also not meeting your needs still. And they're not taking care of you. And they're not emotionally invested in this relationship. Sometimes they're not even physically invested, but whatever they do gain from you is still enough to keep them there. And that is why a lot of people end up just kind of staying in these kind of situations.
Yeah.
It's just very hard to look at a situation, and once you remove all the external factors, like you were saying, like, oh, my mental health, I'm working on this. Oh, could be that, whatever. And then looking at it with a larger lens, be like, this is still here. What does that mean?
Mm-hmm.
And what do you do with it when you figure out what it does mean? You know?
It was really hard. And it got to a point where I sat him down and I was like, look, here's a list of all the things that need to be improved in our relationship. And there was 3 separate times that I sat him down. And I said, and like months separated between the 3 separate times, I said, this is a list of things that need to be improved. And each time I was just blown off. And I was like, all right, cool story, bro. thanks for coming to my TED Talk. And that's all she wrote.
And that's all she wrote. Sorry, I'm just like processing everything you just said for a second. I'm like, where do I go from here? It's very hard.
You're not going to be in a relationship where you feel like everything is your fault and everything is actually your fault. That doesn't exist, because it's like that saying where like bad people don't worry if they're a bad person. You're not going to be in a situation, you're not going to be in a relationship with someone where you're constantly like, oh my gosh, am I the problem? Am I the problem? And the answer is yes. If you are being led to believe that you are the problem, that you are too much, that you are causing the issues, that you are asking too much of them, that, you know what I mean, that you are constantly the problem, that you are the issue 100% of the time, baby girl, you are not the issue. You are not the problem, because that just doesn't exist. Bad people don't wonder if they are bad people. Narcissists don't wonder if they are narcissists. You know what I mean? Like, that just doesn't exist. If someone is constantly leading you to believe that you are the problem, they are in fact the problem. Because if you were the problem, you would not worry that you were the problem. Every once in a while, yeah, you're probably the problem. Like, let's just be real. We're all human.
We all have our faults.
Every once in a while, you're going to do something wrong. Every once in a while, you're going to get on each other's nerves. Like, and that's normal. That's being in a relationship. Yeah.
But the thing is, we're not saying, like, every relationship is doomed for this or anything like that. It's a very small amount. It's a bigger percentage than I think some realize, but it still is only a small amount. You know, there's a lot of great, healthy relationships out there, and this does not apply to you. Like, a season in life is not your entire life, you know? But being in a season that lasts for years and years and years, and nothing's getting better, and there's nothing being worked on, and you're constantly miserable, and you're trying to figure it out, you're trying to fix it. Like, okay, when I was trying to fix my marriage, I laugh because it's so comical. I was listening to podcasts about how to fix your marriage, in a biblical way, of course, too. And there was this, like, I can't even remember, it's probably still on my phone, but it was some kind of podcast by this homemaker, and she was just giving you all the ways. So she would have people write in, and they would be like, here's my situation, here's what I did to fix it, and like all these great review stories. And every single time it was these women who were writing in and saying, I took your advice, which her advice was basically like, hey, your husband's not going to fix your marriage, it's up to you. That was her advice, is everything is on you. And these women would write in, and they would be like, here's what I did. I took this advice of yours, blah, 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 blah. And my husband, da-da-da-da, he's better. And I'm talking like situations where the men were cheating, the men were never home, the men were gambling, whatever, like, bad thing they were doing that was against the, the relationship's agreement. And these women were writing in to fix it. I just remember listening to that. And I was so mad, and I was so angry because I didn't understand why it was all my responsibility to fix something. Why was it all put on me to make something work? Why is the other person in this relationship not willing to come meet me in the middle, or come to my side, meet me in the middle, wherever we can find some kind of middle ground just to move forward and be happy? But there was no compromise. There was very little give.
Yeah. And that's such a common thought process, at least like in our circle. Like, I don't know necessarily that that's common everywhere. I really hope not.
We grew up in
the good old South.
Yeah. So like, it is definitely a little different here with the values.
But that is something that is kind of commonly taught. A praying wife is like the foundation of a strong marriage, and like all of those things, and that like if your husband is straying, that's on you, and all of that bullshit. And like, I dare someone to say something like that to my face, I would throw a punch so fucking fast. Like, say that to my face and find out what my grandpa used to call me, Mike Tyson.
Fatty?
Yes. I would fuck you up. Like, no, because I'm married to a grown man who is accountable for his own actions.
So why do you think that, I mean, I know we kind of talked about it, but like, truly, like, what do you think it is that is holding most people back? Do you think, I know we have our perspective, like, we could see what was wrong, but we didn't know what was on the other side. Do you think that's what's holding people back mostly? Or do you think there's a lot of the love and that is part of it? They want it to work? Do you think it's the shame and guilt of like, oh, this is what I agreed to? Why? Like, what do you think it is?
I think some of it is probably that, number one, no one actually tells you how to get divorced. So let's say, pretend we're married. Break up with your boyfriend, break up with your husband, whatever. If you're married, no one actually tells you how to get divorced. It's confusing as hell. It's hard. If you are married and you want to get a divorce, hit us up. We'll walk you through it. We'll help you every step of the way. But it's hard. It's confusing. It's expensive. It's not easy to get a divorce. Let's start there, okay? Even if you're not married and you're just boyfriend, girlfriend, right? It's still hard to break up with someone whose life you're intertwined with. Like, let's say that you're living together. Maybe you're not married, but you are living together. Who gets to keep the lease? Who is... If no one keeps the lease, who's going to pay the buyout? Maybe our cell phone bills are on the same plan. Maybe, you know what I mean? Who's keeping the fucking mixer? Like, it's hard to, maybe we have a dog. You know what I mean? Like, those sorts of things are hard to kind of, to separate your life from someone is hard. It's
an emotional, like, turmoil on its own.
Yeah.
Not even just the aspects of the relationship. All the external.
Of the logistical parts of it is...
I agree.
And... then, you know, what if one of the partners doesn't work? The financial aspects is something that kept me for longer than I want to admit, because I didn't have a fucking job. How on earth was I going to support 3 children on my own? That felt like the most monumental thing, like a mountain I could not fucking climb. That felt like impossible. And so that's crazy. And then if there are kids, that's
why I stayed as long as I did.
Yeah.
But we've talked about that, and I think it's such a good perspective because although you're not supposed to, like, look back, you know, what is it, hindsight's 2020, whatever, for sure. But at the same time, I think it's a really good, like, self-awareness kind of self-check-in to do, to look at where you're at and how you got to where you're at now. So, you know, yes, we left. We're on the other side now. We have great lives. I can't say, for example, with certainty that I would divorce as easily this time, because I still don't view, you know, like, divorce that way. It's not something that's just, like, easy. It's something you just do. You still intertwine your life, like you're saying. So, you know, I think it's interesting to do that self-check and just see where you're at to, like, better help your future, too. Because you don't want to have to make the same mistake over and over and continue down the same path and wonder why this keeps happening.
Yeah. So, I don't know. I think that there's a lot of reasons why.
I think a majority of people don't realize the situation they're into.
And I think it's hard, especially if people around you are not vocalizing that they're seeing it. Because I know that if people like you and my neighbors and some of my other friends had not kind of said something, because, like, my family didn't notice, you know what I mean? They didn't see us as often. And so when they did see, like you said, we were good at pretending. Like, when I finally, my Mimi was the first person I told. And when I told her that it was happening, she was like, what? Like, she was shocked. And because we were really good at pretending that everything was fine. And even when I told the rest of my family, they were all shocked. And so if my friends had not kind of, like, spoken up and been like, hey, I'm noticing some kind of weird things. Like, are you okay with this? Or are you not okay with this? Like, how are you feeling? If they hadn't kind of, like, pried a little bit and gotten me to kind of start thinking, I don't know that I would have ever truly noticed. Like, I knew that I had feelings. I knew that, like, obviously I was not, you know what I mean?
You weren't just happy-go-lucky in love with life. You weren't, like, naive to the situation that we were in.
Yeah, like, I knew that, like, I wasn't live, laugh, loving in those conditions, but, like, I would just kind of, like, accepted that, like, this is my life. Like, these were the cards I was dealt. Like, I'm not going anywhere. You know what I mean? Like, the idea of leaving my husband wasn't even really on the table of possibilities. Like, it wasn't something that I, like, daydreamed about. Like, it just wasn't even.
Oh, I did.
It really wasn't even, like, on the car. Even when you first left your husband, I was like, girl, you crazy.
Well, because, like, I actually thought about this the other day. Like you said, nobody tells you to get divorced, right? I was such a baby when I got married, and I was not emotionally mature enough to get married. No one should have handed me that marriage license, for the record. I don't know why that's not illegal, but should not have been able to get a marriage license. But I really had no idea what went into a marriage, a life together. Honestly, being an adult, I was so sheltered in that way. I wasn't taking care of myself. I mean, I lived at home. Parents paid for my groceries. They bought me my car. I was very lucky with that. Not everybody gets that, but that was my life. And then I jump in and I'm like, peace out. I'm going to go marry this guy and go over here. I had no idea what I was doing. I had no idea how to be a wife or kind of just like a homeowner or like a grown-up. As stupid as that sounds, I didn't know how to be a grown-up. I was just a child. But then, you know, 6 years later, I think I was almost a little emotionally stunted at that age, because when I look back at like getting divorced, I also felt like a child. I felt like I was so naive. I had no idea what I was doing. I was so alone. You were obviously there, and I'm not trying to negate any impact that my, friends and family did. But the emotional turmoil of dealing with it is truly only something you can deal with on your own. And it's hard because as much as you can have friends that are in family, whoever that are there for you, it's never going to be the same.
I think that every divorced person in general, but like specifically every like single mom, can relate to that first night alone in like whatever your landing place was. So like for us, that was like our apartments. And I remember you were like, do you want me to come sleep with you?
And you're like, no.
And I was like, no, I don't even have a, like, we hadn't even set up my bed yet. I literally slept on like my couch cushions on the floor. I was like, no, because we didn't even bring over the couch yet. Like, just like.
We almost single-handedly moved you into that apartment, okay?
I know,
we did a lot.
Like, we hadn't even, like, we had just brought over stuff that, like, fit in my van that first night.
We tried, but man.
And I was like, no, I'm fine. Like, I'm okay. And I remember sitting in that apartment being like, what the fuck did I just do? Yes. Like, I just blew up my life. What am I gonna do? I don't know how to install the Wi-Fi. I don't know how to do anything. I don't even know how to work this thermostat. Like, because it was all fancy and a smart thermostat. I was like,
It's weird how you become so dependent on living with someone else.
Yes, and I was like, they're panicking, and I literally cried myself to sleep in this apartment, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is the scariest thing I've ever done in my entire life. It was the first time I had ever lived alone in my entire life, and I was like, this is insane. I am a crazy person. Only a crazy person would do this to themselves.
You were hard on yourself, dude. You were really hard.
It was the greatest thing I've ever done.
It is. But it's so hard to know. I remember always talking to my therapist about it when I was trying to leave, but I was struggling to, because I don't know if they remember, but I went on my own, and then I did go back, and I don't regret that choice. That was the choice I made in the time that I needed. But when I was talking to my therapist post like going back, we would always talk about this, and I was just like, I just don't know what the right decision is. I don't know what the right choice is. I don't know if in 5 years I'm going to be regretful or grateful, like whichever way I go. And she just kept telling me like there is no right decision, and we all know that, but if you really sit with that, there is no right choice. Like at the end of the day, you just have to make a decision and go forward. You can't like guess. You can't just predict it when it's based on feelings. There's no actual logic behind it. There's no real decision to be made, because at the end of the day, you're going to make the best choice that you can in those moments. But it's so hard to know when you're going through it. It's hard when you're in it. And I'm not trying to sit here and just say like everybody's marriage sucks by any means, but there is a good handful out there that it hurts my heart to see. Because those people are amazing and deserve to be cherished and taken care of. But men ain't shit, and they should break up with their boyfriend.
Men ain't shit?
Men ain't shit. Except my man. Love you.
And mine. He's pretty cool.
Yeah. Oh, and our sons.
And our sons.
And maybe a select few others, but
Yes.
We can't go on naming a list. It'll take the whole episode. Yeah. But anyway, yeah.
I don't know. This is just something that we've been talking about for the last couple months. Like, it's something that I feel like we've seen a lot of, and like I feel like the words, I just wish we could tell her to break up with him, have like come out of our mouths so much.
Or we told her to break up with him.
Yes.
And she hasn't.
I feel like those words have just come out of our mouths so much the last couple months, and like,
the hardest part is that you cannot convince someone to leave until they're ready.
Yeah.
I know that for a fact, between us, between me going back, between our friends that we've seen get divorced and how their decisions, were made along the way. You can never convince someone to do something before they're ready. But at the same time, you can encourage them. Not to be toxic, not to try to tell someone what to do, but the people you care about, you want to support, and, like the friends that you had, your neighbors.
And what I always tell people, I told this to Rowan whenever she was deciding whether or not to leave. I've told this to several friends. I've even told this to my little sister, is that if you are considering leaving, leave, because there are no rules in life.
I love it when I remember we have free will.
If you change your mind and you guys are apart for a year, 6 months, 2 years, and you find your way back to each other, just because you broke up doesn't mean you can't get back together.
%.
And so if right now in this moment you are considering leaving, leave. Because that might be God or whoever, if you don't believe in God, putting it on your heart that this is not the time. That this might not be the person for you, or maybe this might not be the best version of this person for you. And even whenever my ex-husband and I split, we had that conversation, because obviously like the goal is one big happy family, right? And so we had that conversation of like, just because like we're getting a divorce, but like we're going to keep things amicable, we're going to keep things respectful, because who knows what the future may hold. Obviously I don't intend on getting back with the man, but like,
you don't say.
But like, you know what I mean? Like, we didn't want to ruin our relationship, because in that moment we were very much in love with each other, and we just were very hurt by each other. And so I told him very much that. I said, you know, this might not be the end of our story, but it's the end of our story right now. And so if you are feeling like, I don't know, I'm torn, just leave. It's hard, but both of you will grow tremendously through it.
Yeah, there's like even the smallest part of you, smallest inkling that feels like your situation is not right. There's something wrong, whether that's just a personal feeling, you know, of how the relationship's going. If it is something like just emotional neglect, not just, but you know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
emotional neglect, or I'm talking all the things outside of abuse, I guess is what I mean. But if there's something that just doesn't settle right with your own spirit, but you push it off because you're either really good at blaming yourself like our Alyssa was, or just convincing yourself that it's a season or whatever that is, things don't change unless you make them change.
Yeah.
You know, just like you can't make someone leave, you can't have things change unless there is action a lot of the times. That's why they always say, like, if you leave or whatever and they say they're going to change, they say all these things, but they're not actually showing it. A lot of times if you go back, they're just going to continue the same behavior because it worked. They got you. Why would you leave again? Similar if you say, okay, if you do this, I'm going to leave, which is why I don't believe in ultimatums. But if you say an ultimatum and you don't follow through on it, why would they trust that ultimatum?
Yeah.
They're just going to do the same things and the same behaviors. The only way to ever make someone, if this, like you were saying, this is who you want to be your person, but it's just not quite right, then they need a wake-up call, and you can't make them have that wake-up call, just like we couldn't make you break up with your boyfriend. So,
because if we could, we would.
Man,
if I had a button where I could be like, he's not treating her good, break him up, and I would.
There are nuances to the whole subject, because, you know, I have feelings because of recent events in my own life. Just, there's things that have happened that I've called Alyssa about. I'm like, like, what do we think about this, you know? And it is hard. Like, I'm not saying, like, for me to break up with a boyfriend, I just mean, like, with people we care about. Like, it is hard because you want to almost, like, shake them.
Yes.
And just try to, like, get it through, but you don't know how. And it makes you question, like, okay, but am I the problem? Am I wrong, like, as the friend or the family member, to be like, this doesn't look right to me, but if you're happy, it's okay. So it's hard because I think I'm the problem in those situations all the time.
It's I don't know.
I don't know
either. I'm the nosiest bitch, though. I be asking, are you cool with that?
I usually just suss people out. Like, I ask
because if no one asked me if I wasn't cool with that, I would have never known that I was not in fact cool with that.
Yeah, it's very true. There's a lot of layers to this, though. But anyway.
There's so many layers.
Okay, if I was going to sum this episode up, how would I sum it up? Let's see. Don't live your life frozen because you're so scared of what's on the other side. Take a step back, look at it. And if you feel called to break up with your boyfriend, I highly suggest you do.
What a nice summary. Did you get that from ChatGPT?
I sure did, right now in my brain. Yeah, I actually have those little chips in my brain. What are they called? Like RF chips?
Really?
I would never. Honestly, that would be grounds for divorce if Hank ever did that.
What if I got one?
Divorce. You cannot put... We're not getting on that subject. I'm going to go off. It feels good to be back, though.
We missed you guys.
We did. I hope you enjoyed whatever this episode ended up being. We'll listen back to it and probably cringe, but that's okay. It's the first one in a while. Anything's better than the first few we tried to record.
Those were beautiful and nostalgic.
They were. And rough.
Emily didn't like them.
Poor behavior.
She said, can you guys just focus or something?
No. Honestly, I'm sure there's a lot of people that also have ADHD that listen to these and like, it soothes something to their brain.
Emily said, they're hard to listen to because you guys just can't focus. Marshall said, 10 out of 10, my favorite podcast. I said, that's why you're the best.
Did you tell Emily you're going to replace her with Marshall?
No.
We love you, Emily. I'm just kidding. We do go around. Our brains are scrambled, but we're working on it. This is our first one back, so Emily, give us some grace. Thank you.
She won't even listen.
Bitch. Again, that's whore behavior.
Marshall will listen and tell her that we shouted her out.
I love you, Marshall and Emily. I think she wouldn't take it personally. She won't. She knows I love her, hopefully. All right. I think that's all.
Well, thanks for listening.
See you next time.
TTYL.
XOXO. I knew you wanted me to.